Hey everybody, this is Sarah with the Author Sesh Corner, and I'm here with my co-host Wren Nightingale.
Hello.
And today we are doing a session where we're reading 2 chapters from our published work. If you missed the first episode that we recorded, we already read chapters 1 and 2. So if you don't want to be confused, I suggest to go back and rewatch that episode. And another announcement that we want to bring up is that after we get through our books, which I think Ren's will be first because it's not as big as mine, but
Mhm.
after we finish through her book, we would like to bring on other authors to read their published works. Um, so stay tuned for that. I will have another announcement or post in the Discord or whatnot when the time comes. All right. So I published Fool's Haven, and I'm going to start on chapter 3. And chapter 3 is called Twin Peaks. He grabbed the paper with a huff and read it over. His eyes widened. You can't be serious, Lee. Are you out of your fucking mind? It won't be that bad, Lee said. It has a great view and different activities. Plus, I'm sure there's some type of pampering. What woman turns down an opportunity to get pampered? The job offer is flawless. Sebastian thought Lee was too confident and wondered if she even knew Gracie at all. Choose a different one. I sure as shit don't want it to be awkward the entire time, and we aren't going there to get pampered, he mumbled the last part. Sebastian grabbed the handle of his beer mug and examined the job again. It was a romantic couples resort, and the request was odd. He grimaced as he continued reading. Although couples would go there to value their relationship, often most couples at the resort were guilty of affairs. He snorted and threw the paper onto the tabletop. This sounds absurd. Seriously, affairs? I think you would have fun, Sebastian. Lee twirled a curl around her manicured finger. Don't give me the whole, I don't do that kind of job, or I don't have fun bullshit. I've known you long enough, sweetheart, to know you by now. He took another swig. Hardly. Let me just pick a job, and I'll bring Gracie. The paper was suddenly snatched from the counter as someone chuckled behind him. Am I hearing right? You're taking Gracie on a job? Brody asked, shaking the crinkled paper to straighten it. Kinsley and Tanner accompanied him. We were just discussing doing the same thing. Amused, Brody arched his pierced eyebrow. Kinsley took the empty seat to Sebastian's left. Why don't we all go together? I'm not sure Gracie would go with you alone. No offense, Bash, but we have been trying to connect with her for weeks. Sebastian snorted, realizing that they had been waiting for the opportunity to intrude. Lee clapped her hands together, startling everyone. She makes a very valid point. This is perfect. I will relay that the resort job request was accepted. You guys can leave this afternoon and make it before dinner time. It's only a few hours away, and I heard it's not as cold there. Lee winked as she reached under the countertop, pulling out a black binder with job inquiries taped to the front. What the hell? What happened to me getting a say in this? How do you think Gracie will react knowing that we signed her up for a job without consulting her? I don't exactly want to listen to her whine and bitch. Last I checked, she's still a total wreck and just wants to be left alone, Sebastian grumbled, rubbing his face. Oh, come on. I think this will be exciting, Kinsley said. And it'll be good for everyone. It's been a hell of a year, and it will give her an excuse not to think about him. Sebastian narrowed his eyes. Do I scream excitement? Kinsley giggled at him, which only made him groan. I'm pinning this on you and Nimrod over there, so who is telling Gracie? Last I checked, she wasn't a people person. We all are. It'd be more fun that way, Brody said. Smirking, he slammed his fist down on the countertop, which rattled the glasses, and grabbed the paper. He explained to Sebastian they had given Gracie over 2 weeks to figure shit out, and now her time was out. Well, she can only take it one of 2 ways, Tanner said. But with her emotions, there's no way of knowing how she'll take this, especially since we signed her up without obtaining her consent. He crossed his arms. Guys, I think you're overthinking this. It's Gracie we're talking about here, Lee said. The trio gave Lee the most oh my gosh, incredible. Oh.
Hold on.
I can't say that word.
Sorry,
I can say it mentally, but not out loud.
Incredulous.
Yes, that word. Sorry, guys, I am not the best reader. Look as she stared back at them with a confused look. She tilted her head and blinked as Sebastian snorted and turned his attention back to his beer. That's why we're worried, Brody grumbled. And why are we doing this as a team? Kinsley added. The loud clink of a beer mug slamming on the counter silenced the group. Scanning, Sebastian threw payment at Lee. If we're going to do this, let's go. Scene break. Sebastian walked behind Brody, Kinsley, and Tanner, who all talked deeply about Tanner leaving in a few months for some business. He wanted to mentally run away and instantly regretted letting his curiosity get the best of him. They entered the foyer of the apartment complex, walking up the steps that led to Gracie's door. Knocking first, Kinsley waited to hear movement, but all they heard was nothing. Weird. Maybe Gracie is not home, Tanner said. No, she's home. Where else would she be? Sebastian asked. Brody pounded on the door and made Sebastian cringe. Yo, do you have to knock so hard? Gracie, you in there? Brody Howard, pounding on the door even harder. Moments later, the door swung open, revealing tired green eyes that screamed pissed. Gracie huffed, her face pale. What? Sebastian chuckled and leaned against the wall while Brody and Tanner exchanged looks. With some urgency, Kinsley tried blocking their view. Gracie, Kinsley said, glancing down while pointing. Seriously, you guys, I was sleeping. Who sleeps completely clothed? Gracie closed the door in their faces and left them in the hallway. That went okay, Brody finally said to break the silence. Kinsley whacked him on the arm, rolling her eyes. Well, we did invade her home, Tanner replied, slightly embarrassed. She also has a point. I sleep practically naked. Kinsley shrugged when Brody glared at her. The door reopened, startling them. Pack up, Squirt. We're going on a job, Sebastian said before the others could get a word in as he pushed off the wall. Gracie froze, her jaw clenching when he mentioned a job. It was at that moment that Sebastian remembered that he had tried to tell them it wasn't a good idea to throw a job at her without consent. He felt as if everyone was rather pushy toward her rather than giving her space and the time to move at her own pace. Excuse me, Squirt, her voice squeaked. Who are we exactly? Her eyes swept the group. I think it would be fun, Gracie. A change is nice occasionally. Kinsley stated. She sat at Gracie's desk as she fiddled with the papers on top. Gracie stared at Sebastian. What kind of job is this exactly? She asked, her hands on her hips. Here, Brody said, shoving the paper toward her. This job screams Lee, she said as she threw the paper to the floor. Great, now if only you knew the term hustle, so we can all get going, Sebastian said. Gracie squinted, then glared at Sebastian. Shut up, she snapped. Lieutenant, earlier when you tried to give me a pep talk, and now this? Just shut up. She pulled out a bag and started throwing a few outfits into it, grumbling. Not my damn choice. I got roped into this just as much as you did. I want to take a normal job and bring you, but Lee insisted we take this one. And these two decided they were tagging along after overhearing. Sebastian said, and my pep talk was amazing. Your attitude just sucks. She paused, whipping her head around to look at him. Her eyes were intimidating. I wouldn't have an attitude if people would just mind their own business. Touché, he replied. Gracie zipped her bag and stood up, searching for a band. After shuffling on her shoes, she ran fingers through her hair and pulled it back into the band. She huffed and threw her bag at Sebastian's feet. He thought Gracie was quite short, but that didn't disregard her intimidating look in his eyes. One lesson Sebastian learned was to not underestimate someone, especially a woman. He watched Gracie in amusement as she crossed her arms to mimic him. He winked at her and she tilted her head, a crease marring her forehead. She was getting worked up, which encouraged him even more. Swiftly, he grabbed Gracie by the waist and hoisted her over his shoulder. Hey, you, put me down, she squealed, her fist bunching the fabric from his shirt. Not a chance, Sebastian said. He leaned down with her still on his shoulder and grabbed her bag. Besides, the view is quite nice, he chuckled, staring at her ass. She punched his back, heart-shaped. Perfect. Gracie couldn't do anything but groan in defeat, which was a win in his book. Sebastian eventually put her down, but still carried her luggage as they made their way to the train station. The train station was relatively quiet for the early afternoon, but no one complained. They got their tickets and boarded the train car. After finding a booth, Gracie plopped down into her seat. The resort was closed, but it was still a good 2-hour trip. Scene break. Gracie leaned against the window and stared into the horizon as trees passed by. It had only been 30 minutes since their departure, and Brody lay across Kinsley's lap, while Tanner sat on the end with his eyes closed, all three asleep. Sebastian sat beside Gracie, his arms crossed and legs stretched out. His eyes were closed, which made it hard for her to tell if he was asleep. So would you finally enlighten me with the real reason for this job? Gracie asked, looking at Sebastian. Sebastian. He still didn't answer her. Sighing, she called his name again. When that didn't work, she sat straight and tapped his shoulder. Sebastian jumped, his head snapping down to look at her, and seized her by the wrist. Don't touch, Sebastian scowled. Hey, let go. You weren't answering me. Had to get your attention somehow. Sebastian released his grip. What? You have my undivided attention now. He rubbed a hand down his face. Are you okay? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. For the third time, what's the real reason behind this job? Gracie asked, her body now fully turned to face him with narrowed eyes. Why do you keep asking that? He returned her glare. Come on, Sebastian, this isn't you at all. Look at this group. 4 people who have never worked with each other. You only ever work with your posse or solo. So I can't see how you are surprised that I'm raising an eyebrow at this, she explained. Brody and Kinsley are my friends. Kinsley is one of my best friends, but you're still a mystery to me. I can't figure out your intentions. Gracie looked down and fiddled with her hand, unintentionally shifting the mood. I'm only looking out for you. You are a part of the misfits, and all misfits are family, and you're suffering. Is there a crime for helping someone out with good intentions? Gracie slumped forward, her hands now covering her face. You don't need to. She sat back, stretching her legs out. The seating area on the train was rather cramped for the group, but the seats weren't very comfortable in Gracie's opinion. I wouldn't have agreed to any of this if I didn't want to, so stop making it awkward. He reclosed his eyes and shifted slightly to a different position. She never noticed his features until she traced her eyes of his heart-shaped face. His eyebrows were light brown, almost blonde. Blonde wisps of hair lay over his forehead. His nostrils flared as he exhaled quietly. Every so often he would grimace and squirm. She bit her lip in debate. She had an idea what was happening, but didn't want to assume. Hey, he reopened his dark, steel blue eyes to look at her. If you want, you can lie down. Lay your head in my lap. I don't mind. You look like you're about to be sick, she said quietly. His shoulders sagged. This does not leave this car. I have motion sickness and sometimes vertical. Trains don't mix with either of those well. He groaned and burrowed his face into her lap. Not my business to tell. It happens. She glanced at Brody, slumped over Kinsley. However, I don't see how that is comfortable. She giggled, making her lap shake. Please don't laugh, Sebastian groaned once more. Gracie's fingers worked through his hair. She hoped the effects would soothe his nerves. So romantic couples resort. I can only imagine what Lee is trying to do. Gracie turned toward the window. I understand, but time will heal itself. I'll be fine. Sebastian squeezed Gracie's thigh in response to her mumbling. She smiled and shut her eyes before sleep consumed her. Scene break. Seriously, Gracie? Wake up, Sebastian said, leaning down to shake her. Damn it, Gracie. His vigorous shake woke Gracie up, and she immediately jumped and accidentally headbutted him. Oh shit. Gracie held her forehead and fell back into the seat. What the hell, Sebastian? Sebastian cursed under his breath, rubbing his forehead. Why'd you do that? Brody started laughing. Come on, let's go before the train takes off. This is our stop, he ordered. Gracie held her forehead as she grabbed her bag with the other hand. So it was about a mile up the mountain, Kinsley started, staring at the map as they departed the train. If we just follow the path, it'll lead us straight to Twin Peaks Resort. Why am I suddenly getting a weird feeling about this job? Gracie asked as they started up the path. It's giving me the chills. I can't quite put a finger on it, but I have a nagging feeling. Sebastian trailed behind the group, keeping to himself as Gracie walked a few paces before him and took in the surroundings. The path was wide enough for two people to walk beside each other. Snowdrop flowers and freshly bloomed purple pansies lined the pathway. On either side, naked trees littered and waited for the time where their luscious green leaves would grow back. As they traveled closer to their destination, the heaviness Gracie felt grew stronger. Because it's a lover's resort, Sebastian said. What's not weird about it? Gracie turned to walk backward and face Sebastian. I need to fix that sentence. Only lovers come here. I don't think that is the case, Sebastian. I just have a weird vibe. Something feels off, she explained. Anyways, does that mean that we are pretend lovers? Because there's no way in hell I'm acting with Brody, especially since Kinsley's here. Gracie clasped her hands behind her back and smiled at Sebastian. Blushing, Kinsley looked away from Brody. What's that supposed to mean? Kinsley asked, offended. Sebastian and I could totally act like lovers. Brody shot a dirty look in her direction. The hell you are, you're my partner in this. Brody wrapped his arm around Kinsley's shoulders. With the scenery changing, the resort appeared in view. Pine trees lined the pathway, giving off the greenery that normally existed during wintertime. About time, it seems like we've been walking for ages, Gracie complained. The resort resembled a log cabin with a porch wrapping around the entire entrance to the left side of the building. Huge windows lining the wall faced the mountains to sightsee the sunrises and sunsets. Even though Gracie was being dragged into this job, she had to admit that she was excited for the evening to watch the sunset from those windows. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply, inhaling the clean air. This is amazing, Gracie whispered to herself. She didn't realize she had stopped while the others continued onward. Gracie, are you coming? Sebastian's voice startled her. She reopened her eyes to peer at him, while his hand extended toward her and shook for her to grab. Come on, we have to make it more believable. Gracie placed her hand in Sebastian's, intertwining her fingers with his, which oddly enough gave her butterflies. He gave her hand a gentle squeeze as he led the way up the hill. When Gracie and Sebastian finally caught up, they saw a woman talking to Kinsley, Tanner, and Brody. The woman was relatively small and had mousy brown hair and hazel eyes. She wore a loose skirt along with a collared shirt. It was nothing spectacular for a Lover Resort's owner. What did we miss? Hi, sorry, I'm Gracie. Gracie introduced herself, and this is Sebastian. She pulled her hand for Sebastian's and extended it to the owner for a shake. Hello, I'm Bonnie Peak, owner of Twin Peaks. I want to thank the five of you for coming to figure out this weird phenomenon. I'm unsure if magic is involved, but was recommended to ask for the misfits. It's relieving to know there's such a group of people available for jobs like this, she said. The ratings are dropping like flies, and now I'm desperate to figure out what is happening. I'm not really sure how all these affairs keep happening. I don't want to be known as a resort of affairs. Bonnie rubbed her arm, looking away from the group. If this keeps up, we'll have to close down the resort to salvage our reputation. It would be a shame if it closed, Kinsley said sadly. Please come. We'll get you set up in the rooms. Amenities are available 24 hours. You also have kitchen access, although we do have kitchen staff. Bonnie led the group through double doors. The lobby was rather significant, with lounge chairs and love seats in the front of the bay windows that peered over the mountain and lake below. Walking around the entrance, Gracie stopped in front of the windows. The view overlooking the lake made her smile, but she reminded herself to stay alert and focus rather than get distracted. It would be a shame. This place is perfect, Gracie said. Her eyes were still focused on the view outside the window. Great. Here are the keys to your rooms. Please help yourselves to anything, Bonnie said, and handed the keys to the men. Kinsley and Brody found their room easily. In the opposite hallway, Gracie followed behind Sebastian as they searched for their rooms. The hallway was long, and its doors were spaced far apart, giving occupants plenty of privacy for their stay. A placement of 5 staggered doors lined each side, and between the doors to each room there were medium-sized tables with vases and flowers. Above each table were paintings hanging on the wall. Sebastian stopped before the 4th door on the right side, room A12. That's us, Sebastian grumbled as he opened the door. Gracie raced past him and marveled at the room. Oh wow, this is beyond words, she gasped. One wall had windows and a door that led to a balcony. There was a king-size bed with a canopy, cream-colored curtains wrapped around the canopy and pulled at the floor at each bedpost. Between the bed and the wall, a bedside table sat. A chair was situated on the other side of the bed. This place is too fancy. Sebastian threw their bags onto the bed. Fancy, yes, but it's breathtaking. Look at this view, Sebastian. Tell me it doesn't take your breath away, she said, and danced on the balcony, forgetting the reality. The view is nice. Sebastian walked to lean against the door frame to the balcony. Want to get something to eat? I'm starving, and I know you probably are too. She stopped dancing and faced him embarrassed. Sure. Why don't we have a picnic? She asked, regaining composure. He raised an eyebrow. A what? A picnic. Pack food in a basket, have food on the grass. A picnic. Dumbfounded, he stared at her. From what you described, I don't see how a picnic would be that fun. She groaned. That's not the point, you brute. The point of this is that picnics are supposed to be romantic. Besides, what else would we do? Sebastian shrugged, not really caring. Seeing a closet near the door, she grabbed a sheet she hoped the owner wouldn't mind her using. Whatever, lead the way to this picnic, he said. She couldn't hide her excitement despite how hard she tried to conceal it on her face. Shoving the sheet under one arm and grabbing his hand on the way, she dragged him with her. Maybe if you're nice, I'll let the famous Sebastian Bryce know more about me, but first, I want to know more about you. Famous? Hardly, and why would I want to know more about you? And why should I tell you something about me if you aren't going to do the same, he asked. No offense. Gracie released his hand as they continued down the hallway. She stopped to stare at the painting hanging on the wall, staying silent before turning toward him. You are a mystery, as I've stated several times. I know nothing about you. What I want is to know who you are. You are a closed book with blank pages. I want to fill in those pages. I'm more of a private person, so I don't tell much of my story to people either. So I'm willing to open up a smidgen about myself if you're willing to do the same with me. She rolled her lips as she focused more on his eyes. Do you understand? My life is nobody's business. The fewer people know, the better. Just because I'm the son of the orphanage owner doesn't make me special. I call bullshit. She rolled her eyes. Look, you took me under your wing and signed me up for this. So you owe me some one-on-one time to learn more about you. Don't think I'm all mushy because I could honestly care less too. But if we're working together, I'd like to know more about you. They entered the front lobby from the hallway and approached the secretary behind the desk. Hi, we were wondering where the kitchen was wanting to make some stuff for a picnic. The woman nodded and walked through the door behind her. Soon after, the lady returned with a food sack and a bottle of wine. Gracie thanked her and stuck them in the basket. Ready? She asked while she shifted the basket onto her forearm. Do I have a choice to be ready? Lead the way. Gracie frowned, shrugged, and then headed towards the outside door as he followed behind her. And that ends chapter 3. And I think chapter 4 is my long chapter.
Based off of the hard copy that I have, from 38 to 52, so that's about 14 pages, so not too bad.
Or maybe I know it's one of the chapters. Okay, it's chapter 5. That's a 20-page chapter. So that's next lesson.
Oh, fun.
Alright, I need one more drink before we continue.
Yep, you're good.
So I am working on a second edition, and I saw some things I would like to tweak in that chapter.
Yeah. I heard you already saying one sentence.
Yeah, because it sounded weird to say. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think it's supposed to be that.
Real quick before you start, sorry, for anybody who gets the hard the hardback, I guess is what you call it. There's beautiful chapter art right there. So that's what I'm following along with. So if you're seeing that I'm flipping a page and she's not flipping a page, it's because the hard copy is a little bit more bigger in size. Because you're reading from paperback, right? Oh, you're also reading?
I'm reading from the
because
hardback version, yeah.
Oh, because I'm flipping a page different from you flipping a page.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
What chapter is your 4 on?
It's on page 38.
Oh, you know what? That's because mine, I had to fix the pages and stuff on it.
Yeah.
Remember, because this is a
that's the author proof
copy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I went through. So you might be off because I had to shift everything because of the page numbers and stuff.
Okay. Well, there's the answer for that.
All right. Chapter 4, Common Ground. Up the hill, Gracie found a spot shaded by a tree. It wasn't the most dazzling view where they sat, but pickings were quite slim with it being so close to the mountainside. She spread the sheet out on the grass and set the basket in the middle. With his hand back against the tree, Sebastian stretched his legs out and folded his arms behind his head. A light breeze picked up, the day turning into mid-evening. Okay, so, Gracie said as she stood on her knees before the basket. She dug around in it and laid its contents out. You can choose turkey or chicken lunch meat with cheese and mustard. She also gave me a bottle of red wine. Although if it were my choice, my wine would be on the fruitier side. She held the bottle by the neck while tapping the butt of the bottle to her knee. He grunted, leaned forward to take the bottle, and then chuckled. For a lover's resort, you'd think they would have better quality wine. Gracie shrugged. Once she sat back down and crossed her legs beside Sebastian, she examined the food surrounding her. I like blackberry, but I'm not a drinker. I do enjoy hard cider from time to time. She unwrapped a chicken sandwich and took a massive bite. Hard cider? I guess there are worse options. He reached down and grabbed the other half of her sandwich, taking a bite at the corner. Gracie gave him a dirty look while he shrugged and took another bite. This actually isn't half bad. Sebastian popped the last bite into his mouth. Gracie leaned over, grabbed a turkey sandwich, and offered the other half to Sebastian. He took it, thanking her, and they ate in silence. A while later, she laid on her back in the open once their bellies were stuffed with food. Her hands were folded over her stomach while she stared at the sky, watching the clouds slowly move to their next destination. Sebastian had returned to his position of leaning against a tree with his arms crossed. How old are you, Sebastian? Gracie asked. She never really knew or thought to ask, not that she cared, but curiosity overrode that. She was in a decent mood for once and wanted to take advantage of the moment. 28. Why? He asked, his eyes still closed. Never knew. I'm 22, she said, crossing her ankles. She knew he was older, but not by how much. Favorite time of day? Opening his eyes, Sebastian glanced down at Gracie with a raised eyebrow. What is this? 21 questions? Do you want it to be? I did say we were going to get to know each other. Gracie tilted her head back at Sebastian. Just answer. She wasn't expecting him to stare at her, so she smiled. He sighed. I guess night. Nice. I like dawn. I'm a morning person. Gracie laid her head back down, her neck thanking her as she resumed cloud watching. Coffee? Sebastian chuckled. Coffee? What does that even mean? She flipped to lie on her stomach, propping herself up onto her arms. As it sounds, are you a coffee person? She asked again. Coffee is my addiction. Dropping his arms, he fiddled with a blade of grass. Occasionally, I drink more of those energy drinks. Favorite food? Gracie flashed a smile as her long bangs swayed across her cheek from the breeze. She was playing a game with vulnerability. His hair ruffled. Anything with meat, he answered quickly. From the moment he had chased after her, he was worried. And here she was trying to pry personal information from him. He wanted to be annoyed, but a pull toward her was forming and growing. My lady, a voice said behind them, interrupting. Gracie closed her eyes. Her bonds really did have impeccable timing to appear at the most inconvenient moments. She reopened them. What do I owe the honor for my mighty bond to make an appearance? She glanced over her shoulder and then shifted to turn. A man stood there with a hand tucked in his black slacks while the other was in the air. His lips twisted into a cocky smile. His shaggy dark brown hair was slicked back into a tie that hung loosely down his back, and his shirt sleeves were tucked up to his elbows. Lastly, his left wrist displayed a twine bracelet that Gracie remembered making him years back when she first acquired him. Do I need a reason? Leon asked, and then looked down at the assortment of food. Are you going to eat that? He pointed to a wrapped sandwich. Gracie shook her head, leaned to grab it, and then tossed it at him. I forget bonds can get hungry on our planet. Such a weird quirk. Imagine living on our planet where you are fed with energy to restore life force. Leon unwrapped his sandwich and took a huge bite as Gracie stood. That sounds unappetizing, Sebastian said, grabbing the basket as Gracie grabbed the sheet to fold. Nodding, Leon said, You're telling me. I definitely preferred the food here. As the moon replaced the sun, stars became more apparent as the early evening turned into mid-evening. Gracie shivered slightly from the brisk air of the mountains. She turned towards Sebastian, fiddling with the tag on the sheet. We should probably head back. Sebastian agreed. The two left for the resort, and Leon followed behind as he munched on his sandwich, throwing a comment on how tasty it was. Once they got back, Leon disappeared to his planet. Gracie welcomed the resort's warmth wrapping around her like a fluffy blanket as they headed toward their room. Once inside the door, she leaned against the wall for support to unlace her boots. After kicking them off, a moan of delight slipped from her mouth. Sebastian set some logs in the fireplace and then snapped his fingers to trigger a reaction for fire. Once the flame ignited, he closed the doors. The fire danced and fluttered in waves. Gracie dug around in her bag and grabbed some clothes for bed. When she returned from her bedtime routine, Sebastian was lying on the bed. The bathroom is yours, she said, stifling a yawn. She threw her dirty clothes down on the floor, took a deep breath, and jumped onto the bed, face-planting. Thanks. He rubbed his face and slowly maneuvered himself off the bed. I feel like I'm floating on a cloud, Gracie mumbled tidily into the bed. I don't want to move. Ditto, Sebastian said as he closed the bathroom door. Thing break. I need a drink though real quick. It's like I start off strong, but then midway through I'm like, oh, my throat. Breaking the silence, an ear-numbing alarm rang. Gracie shot up, almost giving herself whiplash, and screeched, unaware as to what was happening. With her sudden jolt, she accidentally jabbed Sebastian's ribs with her elbow. An oomph left his mouth before he growled. She felt as if her soul left her body. What the fuck? He coughed. Gracie glanced at Sebastian, forgetting that he was in bed with her, or that they were even on a job. She had been sleeping peacefully, too peacefully. The heavy sleep still hung on her like a sack of bricks. Once reality sunk in, she turned slightly and glanced at Sebastian. Turn that obnoxious thing off, she cried. Sebastian groaned. He reached out toward his side, trying to slap at his device. Another reason to back up why I refuse to get one and why I don't need one, she grumbled, and flopped down with a frustrated sigh. The noise stopped before Sebastian could even find the device. They're useful. That's a lot coming from me, Sebastian said, groggily. Pretty useful at being chucked at the wall, she snorted. Trying to melt back into the mattress, she closed her eyes. But the alarm blared yet again. Her eyes shot open. Sebastian, she smacked him with the back of her closed fist. Sebastian mumbled under his breath as he turned to see where the device was. After finding it tangled up in the sheet, he silenced it by turning it off. Happy? He asked, tossing the device on the bed. No, she answered, her voice muffled by the cover. It freaking woke me up from amazing sleep that probably won't come back to me, she whined. Once I'm awake for so long, I can't go back to sleep. The sunrise was faintly creeping through the closed panels of the window, indicating morning was approaching. Shit, he mumbled. Huh, she asked, eyes closed. Sebastian peeled the covers back and stood up. He stretched his arms above his head, spine popping in multiple places. Doesn't concern you, he mumbled. She snorted, sitting up. That's rude. I guess it's rise and shine time. She was disappointed they had to start their day early. No. Sebastian walked over to the small bar on the sidewall that held what he assumed was a coffee pot. I have to make a call. He picked up a container labeled coffee and scrunched his nose as he lifted the lid to the pot before placing the container back down. Oh, Gracie said, folding the covers back to get up. She approached the doors leading to the balcony and opened them enough to slide out. An array of soft pinks, purples, and yellows splashed across the sky. The sunrise was like any of the ones she was used to watching from her window. Something about watching from the mountaintops gave her an awe-inspiring feeling. She leaned forward against the railing and rested her chin in the palm of her hand. I forgot to tell him, Sebastian admitted loud enough for her to hear. That was Monroe calling. He didn't need to tell her that. She thought it was interesting that he did anyways. Still against the railing, Gracie continued watching the sunrise, her eyes facing the horizon. That somehow doesn't surprise me, she said without thinking, as in Monroe blowing your device up. I always pegged him with that type of personality. You don't hear him like we do while you're off on a job alone. Gracie was aware of Monroe's attraction to Sebastian and assumed Sebastian was as well. Try being on the receiving end, Sebastian mumbled. Even though Gracie barely caught what he had said, she heard enough to giggle. She was right about her assumption. She heard the click of a button, the coffee maker came to life. No thanks. After Sebastian had his cringeworthy conversation with Monroe, they dressed, ready for the long day ahead of them. They agreed to try on some of the couple's activities and meet with Brody and Kinsley later that evening. What should we do first? Gracie asked, biting her lip as they walked down the corridor. We need to observe the other couples and workers and see what sticks out. Not quite what I meant. We need to blend in, right? So we will have to participate in the activities while scoping out anything that is out of order. You've never taken a job like this before, have you? Gracie asked, glancing up and smirking. For once, she had the upper hand of the job. Why would I? I normally take on the more challenging jobs. Sebastian fidgeted and looked around. Romance didn't scream from him, and his acceptance of the bachelor life never proved otherwise. He didn't really date anyone either, at least that was what Gracie had thought. I guess that is true. How about we do something more secluded? Gracie held the brochure map up for Sebastian to see. They have a small lake with rowboats, but it's a walk to the activity. He took it from her. Who'd want to do this shit, he asked. The idea of them participating sounded nice, but she knew Sebastian was uncomfortable, which was why she suggested the rowboat. He wouldn't have to converse with anyone but her. The next activity she thought would be good was the sketching class. The class seemed as if she could get lost in the art and enjoy its relaxing aura, but the activity might need to be more exciting for Sebastian. Instead of recommending it, she asked, so what other activity are you thinking you wouldn't be against participating in? We should at least scope out two that are different from each other. Sebastian gave a quick glance and then returned his attention back to read the list. Not the fucking skit one, he said. I guess the sketch one. Don't have to talk to people, but can still observe and see what we can find. See if we can find a source. He handed the brochure back to her. She flashed him a quick, cheesy smile, causing him to flinch. Sebastian, are you okay? She asked, touching his arm. I'm fine. She dropped her hand, the warmth of his skin stinging her fingertips. As they reached the doors that led outside, Gracie glanced at the map again to see which path to take. Sebastian pointed to the right at stairs leading down a hill toward where the map said the lake was. The pathway was treacherous, and Gracie stumbled multiple times over half-buried rocks and roots. You'd think they did this on purpose, she growled after stubbing the toe of her boot once again and danced to stop herself, praying she wouldn't fall over. Sebastian reached out and captured her by the hips to steady her. Gracie mumbled a thank you. Once they got further down, they caught sight of the lake and the dock full of rowboats. There were only two couples and an event attendee. Looks like we have two more stragglers there, Tindy chuckled. Hello. So this is the rowboat of serenity. The goal is for couples to enjoy the serenity of nature and romance. The man will row the boat and slowly glide his lover around the lake. Sebastian took a sharp intake of air and started choking. Gasping for air, he pounded his chest. Gracie glanced over her shoulder. "Are you okay there, bud?" she whispered. He tried to clear his throat, only to cough again. The attendee went silent mid-sentence, not amused that he was interrupted. "Do we have a problem?" he asked. Gracie shook her head. "No, sir. Sorry." He accidentally inhaled a bug. She waved a hand nervously and hoped he had bought it. To try and justify the bug excuse, Sebastian patted a closed fist to his chest. "I see. Well, moving on. There are life vests. They are highly recommended, but not mandatory. The time frame would be an hour for this specific event if you wanted to participate in others. Please be ready to dock at 10 a.m. Gracie glanced at everyone attending the event. No one really stood out to her. She just hoped Sebastian had a keener eye for pinpointing unusual behavior. Sebastian led them to a boat and stopped to offer his hand for her to grab. As she climbed in, she smiled at him. She settled on a bench while Sebastian boarded, his weight rocking them slightly. Then it hit her, his motion sickness. "Sebastian, I did not think this through," she said frantically. "Why did you agree to this?" Her voice quieted so that the couple beside them and the attending loading the couple couldn't hear her. "I'll be fine." Sebastian took slow, deep breaths. Sebastian untied the rope and pushed them away from the dock with his foot. The water lapped the side of the boat, splashing the pair now and again. Gracie began voicing her thoughts once they were off in the distance and away from the other couples. "I did my best at analyzing the other couples, but I just didn't have any weird vibes, so I think the people attending this event are cleared." Sebastian rowed a slight push to make them glide across the water. It is still quite chilly, and both wore pants and sweatshirts. Honestly, the attendee felt like an idiot. He's staying on my radar just because. And for the record, I didn't choke on a bug. I was choking on a speech behind the rowboat event. Gracie rested an elbow on her knee while tilting her head into her hand. "And for the record, I'm not an idiot like him." She winked. "I figured." Sebastian lifted a paddle and splashed water at Gracie. "Hey, ass," she squealed. "Karma." Sebastian smiled as he sat the paddle down and placed his arms on either side, stretching his legs out before him. "This may sound weird, but I'd rather be fishing than lake rolling, if I'm being honest. This doesn't turn me on," Gracie said. Raising an eyebrow, Sebastian smirked. "What does turn you on?" Gracie glanced away. "Hey," he raised his hands, "you walked into that one." A woman with long blonde hair in a braid and a round-shaped face appeared in the middle of the boat. The water remained undisturbed with the added weight. "My lady." She held two items that resembled a fishing pole and tackle. "Your request?" Gracie straightened her stance. "Victoria, what the heck? That was not a request. Sebastian and I had idle chit-chat. You cannot be seen. We're undercover." She panicked, looking around. Victoria stared at her and then at one of the poles. "Are you unsatisfied?" she asked. Gracie pinched the bridge of her nose. "No, can you guys wait for me to request your sentence? We're on a job, and I can't just have you appearing out of nowhere." Victoria furrowed her eyebrows, still confused. "Do I need to bring a different type of pole?" And there's a little image of them on the lake. Gracie puffed her cheeks out before releasing slowly. "Give me those." Taking the pole, she continued, "Thank you, Victoria. I will call if I need anything else." Victoria bowed and left. Gracie sighed. How the hell are we going to explain these poles? I'm sure telling him we pulled them out of our asses probably wouldn't be wise. Sebastian laughed, a laugh Gracie had never had the pleasure of hearing before. "Do they do that often?" "No, not usually, so to say I was surprised isn't an understatement. Usually Leon is my only frequently appearing bond." Then leaned over the side of the boat and dipped her hand into the water, hissing at the cold. "Guess no skinny dipping in our future," she joked. Have you ever been skinny dipping? Sebastian asked as he picked up the oar to move them to a different lake spot. With only 3 boats occupying the lake, the distance among them was far enough to where no one could see each other's outlines. Once, Gracie said, I had no other choice. I needed a shower of some sort badly. I had nowhere to go then and had to learn many ways to survive. Fun fact, I can start a fire with 2 twigs and some brush without using magic or some other fire source. Sebastian nodded, quite impressed. What about self-defense, hand-to-hand combat? She licked her lips. This is a rather sore topic. Let's not talk about that one just yet. Time was up as a whistle blew. They tossed the poles into the lake, feeling sad that they had gone to waste. Gracie rubbed her hands up and down her arms, shivering from the chill. The rowboat had sounded rather lovely to her when she chose it, gliding on the lake and taking the sights in. In the end, she realized it wasn't the most practical choice in the cold. After figuring out where the sketch event was being held, they headed in the direction of it. I'm unsure if my fingers will be thawed before we start this. Making fists, Gracie blew into her curled fingers. And you weren't even the one rowing. She rolled her eyes. Not sure Mr. Attendee would have approved of me rowing. I think he secretly hated us, she said, recalling the dirty looks he kept giving them. I could give a rat's ass what that guy thought. Gracie giggled, not used to his demeanor. At the orphanage, he had given the impression of being a standoffish and short with people. Getting pissed off at Theo had done little to say otherwise. That was what she had known since she was always with Theo during those altercations. Sometimes all a person needed was a different atmosphere and environment. Both needed a change. And that concludes chapter 4.
Woo! That means you get to start chapter 5, the really long chapter, next time. Get that out of the way next time.
Well, chapter 5, I forgot I split those up. Because chapter 4 and what's in chapter 5 used to be smashed into one chapter, but I split them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was looking forward to the information that's in chapter 5.
All right. So as for me, I unfortunately don't have my physical copy. It's packed in storage right now, but we're going to the storage tomorrow, so I'll have that for our next reading. As for now, I will be reading on my Kindle right there. So when essay comes back, I will start on chapter 3.
I am just around the corner. I was looking for something.
You're good.
And I'm gonna flash your book. I thought I had some tabs down here because I wanted to note some stuff before I forgot. But here, I have your book. Beautiful.
Upside down.
Oh, it's upside down.
There we go. All right, so chapters 1 and 2 were from Chase's perspective. Chapter 3, we are starting off with Summer's perspective. All right. I knew I wasn't ready for this yet. I've been preparing for this night for months, ensuring the paintings weren't scratched from their separate trip on a company moving truck and picking out the right dress, even though Kim lent it to me. The constant attention from potential buyers for the auction was enough to send me back into the rabbit hole I fell through. They all continued to ask about my artwork, wanting to know how they could price it themselves if they wished to buy it. All I could do was give vague answers, as Kim advised, but this had started to become hectic. Thankfully, my eyes finally caught the sight of my friend, but she wasn't alone. Following behind her was the face that I had been hoping to see since moving here. I hadn't thought he would come, and now my nerves were entirely shot. Our eyes didn't take long to meet, but I couldn't look too long when Kim took me out of my head. Summer, dear. Gentlemen, how is everything so far? I envied how formal Kim was with strangers. She could always strike up a conversation with anyone and keep them in some sort of trance. She had a way of becoming an alpha in any social circle, while also remaining cordial and polite. If only people knew she was only second best to her mother. We were just asking the artist about her works, one of the men answered. He was doing a lot more than asking me about my art. The moment he and his friends or colleagues, whatever they were, found me out of all the other artists here, they had done nothing but comment on how young or petite I was while making hidden remarks about my upbringing. One had mentioned that my paintings must have been some hidden usage of digital techniques. The third member added how it was uncommon for someone without a college degree to make it as far as a highly intellectually based auction. My stomach was churning from the way they were making me sick. Ah, well, I bet I can answer some questions for you. Let's give her a break so she can prepare for later this evening. I caught the wink that Kim gave me as she guided the small crowd into another part of the gallery. I tried to release the stressed air I'd been holding, but remembering who I was left with didn't allow me to catch my breath. You made it, I squeaked. How embarrassing. I did. I mean, I usually try to attend any event I'm invited to, especially with a free ticket. Chase held up the hole-punched card in between his index and middle finger. He seemed almost proud to have it still. Sorry, I haven't called or anything. Oh, psh, don't worry about it. There go my nerves again. The moment felt right at the time when I gave him the number, but now the embarrassment was almost too overwhelming. There was a silence between us as I tried to hold my composure. Remember, take deep breaths, in and out, in and out. At some point, we began to walk around the gallery, looking at other paintings that belonged to more well-known individuals. I was careful not to say anything but positive critiques, but Chase seemed almost critical of color schemes or things he felt from them. When we finally got to my wall, his tone changed. I think this one's my favorite. We'd stopped in front of the first one closest to the entry doors. I hadn't figured out a title, so I left it as no title. I wondered why this one didn't have a name yet. This painting is my most recent one, but it also took the longest for me to finish. I didn't know what to call it once it was done. Chase gave a questioning look, his eyes examining the piece. How about unknown? I gave a small chuckle. What? Why that name? I don't know. I think it's just the beauty of the unknowing. His words resonated with me the rest of the evening as we meandered around. I hadn't commented on it, but I prefer him with his piercings in. Are you doing alright? What do you mean? I couldn't help but notice that you've been slightly on guard the whole time we've been walking around. Almost like a robot. I don't know, just off. Chase seemed almost hesitant when trying to find the right words to say. Oh, I guess tonight has just been a little difficult for me. Difficult? Just, full disclosure, I'm not some high-class rich girl raised with a golden spoon in her mouth. I would have barely finished high school if it weren't for Kim's help. All the other artists here are exactly that. Even the buyers for the auction could pinpoint me from the crowd just based on how I hold myself. My eyes looked up towards Chase, noticing how intently he was listening. I had to look away from while untying my tongue. Sorry, I'm rambling and dumping stuff on you. By all means, please. People suck, Chase said, giving a quick scan of the crowd. Kim's voice had gone through the intercom, alerting that the auction would be starting soon. That's for me, I suppose, I said disappointingly. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I think I'm gonna skip on the whole auction thing. Oh, wait. I think I'm gonna skip on the whole auction thing. He put a British accent on the word, which made me smile. I guess I'll see you around. I plan on attending your next show, by the way. That would be nice. I'll be busy, but you can always try to find me after we perform. We both parted ways slowly, as if a force was trying to keep our feet glued to our spots. Chase gave a small wave before turning around. The guard at the door watched him carefully as he made his way to the closest sidewalk. Finally letting out a breath of air, I turned on my heel and headed straight for my destination. Kim told me that all I had to do was stand there and look pretty, while she did all the talking, and that was exactly what I was going to do. Scene break. My morning alarm chimed on my phone, alerting me that it was time to awaken. Monday was the day I had my first job interview. It took me a long time to finally settle into Kim's home. She had her 1-acre lot, owning a 2-story house with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and costly furniture. She helped to set me up in one of the empty guest bedrooms upstairs. Even though Kim was adamant about me not helping with any bills, I still felt the need to be a real adult and find a job once the gallery and auction were over. After a week of calling, handing out resumes, which had little work history, and asking places if they were hiring, I finally got a call back from a little cafe just a couple blocks from Central Park. It was a small business and probably had the most delicious coffee and pastries since I've been here. This was a job I think I could tolerate while also working on my hobby. It took me some time to get ready for my interview. Kim had already left to speak with some clients for another auction, so breakfast for me was a banana. With no car of my own, I had to make sure I was at the bus stop early enough or else there was a chance of missing it. Unfortunately, today was one of those days it was running late by 20 minutes. Because of its delay, I had missed my second bus, having to wait an extra 30 minutes before it finally arrived, packed. I just knew that today was not going to be the best day. That wasn't until I arrived at the cafe that my mind completely changed. There he was, inside, right behind the counter. If I wasn't nervous before, I am now. He works here, too? My heart just couldn't get a break. With a gulp and a sigh, I gently pushed the glass door open, hearing the bell that hung above ring with my entry. Our eyes were locked. I silently approached him, gave a slight cough, and began. Hello, I am here for my interview. My voice croaked as I spoke. I'll grab my boss, Chase said. Hey, boss! He raised his voice without taking a single step. You could hear some form of shuffling from an office room of some sort. Not soon after, a tall and bearded man stepped out in a huff. What the hell do you need now? His voice was gruff. That tune changed when he looked at me. Oh, you must be Summer. Please have a seat and I'll be right with you. I did as instructed, almost taken aback by his quick character change. As soon as I sat down, a 12-ounce white coffee cup was placed in front of me. A sweet vanilla aroma wafted towards me. Sorry about him. He can be abrupt sometimes, Chase said. This is on me. I graciously took the cup and sipped cautiously. It was just how I liked it. Thank you. I didn't know you worked here. Oh, really? Unless you were just stalking me now. His voice came out cocky, but in a fun way as he crossed his arms, a smirk forming on his face. Really, I'm not. I just really liked the business and wanted to try it out. We laughed before his boss returned with a few sheets of paper and a ballpoint pen. Chase, the hell you doing? Get back to work. Aye, aye, boss. Chase jokingly saluted him before winking at him. We walked back to his station as my interviewer sat in the chair in front of me. Now looking closer, I could see my interviewee had to be... Oh, my bad. I had to change that word. Had to be no older than his 30s and definitely hits the gym. His arms could probably lift a large boulder with ease. His voice broke me from my imagination of him doing reps with said boulder. So, Summer Newell, I'm Justin McKinney. You are 21, just moved here, and have no work history. Do you have anything that you do? Justin bluntly asked. Oh, I paint sometimes. It was hard to determine his demeanor now. I had to do this right, but I could already feel my hands gripping the cup harder than needed. Thank goodness it was ceramic. Did I say paper cup before? No, I just said coffee cup. Okay, good. Sometimes. Well, I mean, I am a painter. I recently had some of my pieces up in a gallery. I see. Why do you want to work here? I love the coffee and the food you serve. I also like the small business model and would love to work for you. That was a question I was prepared for. Some of his questions seemed almost out of place, but I wondered if it was because he was looking for specific people and wanted certain personality traits. Thinking this, I grew more worried. Alright, last question for you. Can I trust you to handle customers if I'm too busy doing manager stuff? Odd question. I believe you can, yes. I feel that I am very personable and that I can make decent judgments. Justin's eyes bore into me, trying to look for any sign of a lie from me. Thankfully, I told the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Good. Maybe you could teach our buddy Chase there a thing or two about being personable. Hey! We both turned to see Chase from behind the counter, angrily eyeballing Justin. His boss waved him off, signaling that he should get back to work, which he did after giving him the bird. I was holding back the snickers that were trying to fall out of my mouth from their interactions together. My nerves were finally loosening. Alright, you're hired. You can start tomorrow. Justin stood up, holding his large hand out. I quickly did the same and smiled large. Thank you, I appreciate it. Go ahead and finish your coffee. Chase will be off in about 10 minutes. With those words, he walked away, leaving me puzzled. How did he know we knew each other, or that I would ask Chase what time he was off? While pondering over the event that just happened, I finished my coffee and secretly watched Chase as he performed his customer service act. Even with all his piercings back in, he was still just as lovely as when we first met. He listened to every customer, smiled, and even offered advice to those who were new. It was almost as if he'd been working here for years. At some point, he must have known I was watching because our eyes met, and he kept his eye on me for a while afterward. I didn't hesitate to look away, pretending to be texting someone on my phone, as I continued to glance occasionally. Chase finally made his way over to me, standing next to my table. "Now I know you're stalking me," he smirked. "What? Pfft, no." I was caught. "Boss says you're hired. You excited?" Chase took the empty seat in front of me. "Actually, I am. I've never had a real job before, so this will be a great experience. I'll warn you, people here are unlike people back home. There are certain expectations they want you to fill. Sometimes you just have to fight." Fight? I wasn't sure what he meant. I've heard the occasional harrowing customer stories, but nothing too serious from a small argument. Yep, sometimes you just have to cuss them out of the store or else they won't leave. That's just how business works. But they keep coming back for more. I see. I didn't. So, are you hungry or anything? I was desperately starving, but I tried to keep my stomach volume down when he mentioned the notion. Maybe a little. I know a perfect pizza place near here if you want to try it out. It's on me. With my heart fluttering, I gave a nod. Chase and I slowly made our way to the pizzeria. Scene break. "So, your favorite season's winter, even though your name is summer?" Chase asked. After eating our pizza, Chase offered to walk me to the nearest transit center, where I could catch my bus back home. Of course, we took some extra pass. We discussed all the small things we could think of, from favorite colors to favorite seasons. Just because my name is a season doesn't mean I have to like it. I didn't choose my name. I smiled. Could have fooled me. The sun was slowly dropping behind the city's skyscrapers, indicating that evening was about to arrive. Well, I don't see how much you can like autumn. It's all soggy and gross. But you get to watch the changes in nature. Don't you think that's one of the most fantastic things? You're such a nerd. I couldn't help but laugh as he tried to defend his preference. He is very kind and intelligent, especially for someone who acts and looks different from most people. What made you want to sing in a band? That question made him go silent for some time. It felt like I had offended him at first with the silence. I tried to retract my question, but Chase began to answer. Don't know. I guess my friend thought it would be a good idea, and I just kind of stuck with it. But what about you? He paused again, but this time we stopped walking. I watched for any change in expression. He looked baffled being questioned, or maybe it was just that question alone. I guess I don't have an answer for that, Chase mumbled. Our feet moved us towards my destination once again as he continued. I never really had any big goals growing up. The band was an idea that I stuck with. Do you think that's wrong? His question wasn't sarcastic. It sounded sincere, like a child, wondering if they had made the right decision on something, that maybe they should have asked their parents first before doing the action. I suppose not, as long as you're happy doing what you do. I guess I could say the same for myself now, actually. I don't have any huge goals either. What about your painting? I waved off that statement. Painting is just a hobby that I think I'm good at. It's not something that's stable. What if I can't use my hands or become blind? Use your feet, he joked. Or maybe just throw paint onto the canvas. Somehow, even a dot is a work of art. We finally reached the transit center, where I could wait for my bus. Based on our timing, I'd have to wait for hopefully only 5 more minutes before it arrived. Chase stood with me, considering that the transit center isn't the safest place for anyone to be alone. That could be an option. Maybe I'll turn the idea into a piece. I would love to see that. Then you could title it The Blind Painter. Chase used his hands above our heads as he said the title aloud. My eyes always seemed to watch every movement he made carefully. I was never disappointed. Oh, there's my bus. It's surprisingly on time today, too. Now I was disappointed. I hope to see you at the gig. My face burned as his eyes looked straight into mine. I will definitely be there. With a smile and a wave, I stepped into the large vehicle, paid my fee, and returned home in silence. Chapter 4. Tonight was the night of the concert. Considering it was in a bar, I knew it wouldn't be massive, but I was still panicking. For the last 2 hours, I've been contemplating what I should wear, if I should eat there or before I leave, and if I should drink anything. I was never one to drink alcohol, but would it be customary? Kim sat on the end of my bed, watching my frantic state as I continued to argue with myself. It's not like it's a date. She tried to calm me down, but it wasn't helping. But I've never been to anything like this before. I don't know what to do. I was holding up a dress in one hand and shirt in the other as I stood in front of the mirror. I imagined myself in both outfits, but nothing seemed to click. I said I would go with you, so don't worry about what you'll do when you get there. Are you sure you don't want help? Are you sure you don't want help with your outfit? You can't help me with everything. That was true, but I wished it wasn't. I can help you if you want. I can help you if I want. Now stay still. Kim stood up quickly and held my shoulders. My body stiffened as she did so. She went into my walk-in closet where I heard shuffling of the pile of clothes that I had made during my panic. Based on what you told me the music was like, which is slightly grungy and garage bandish, you want something that almost looks like this. Kim came out with an old gray t-shirt of mine and a pair of black shorts. Isn't that a little plain? Kim took a pair of scissors from my dresser and began snipping randomly at the shirt. I let out a gasp as she began to make rips in the shorts. Now, is it too plain? She made her case. Kim helped me style the outfit, tucking just a front portion of the shirt into the pants, then added a black belt that she had. With some dark fans and a messy ponytail, I was all set. Now you're ready. She studied me as I stood in front of my full mirror. Don't I need any makeup or anything? No time. We'll get something to eat now because you don't want to eat while the bands are playing. Then we'll get one shot to drink and call it good. If you plan on drinking with them after, then you won't be too drunk when you do, alright? Kim always had a plan for everything, which was why she was the best person I could ever have in my life. I never had any direction of my own, so having her be my inner voice helped with everything that I did. However, I never would have taken her for a veteran partygoer. She began to dress herself in almost the same style, but with a short black dress and a jean jacket with dark flats. No matter what she wore, she looked like a model. With a quick bite to eat of some pasta she had made, Kim drove us to our destination. The bar itself was intriguing on its own. The way in was that of a speakeasy, where you had to go through an alley and down a set of stairs to get your identification checked to ensure you were old enough to attend. It was crowded, dark, and loud once you got inside. A band was already playing on the stage, sitting in the back of the large room, but not the one I was here for. I followed my friend through the crowd to the bartender, where she ordered us a shot of something. I couldn't hear her very well and didn't care. My eyes instinctively began to take in my surroundings, ensuring we could find a decent spot once his band took the stage. Are you alright? Kim asked. She held 2 shot glasses, one in each hand, as she faced me. I gave a small nod, I gave a small nod, unsure why she asked, and took one of the glasses. We both gulped down the drink at the same time. It was dark, dry, and burned all the way down. I couldn't help but almost choke on the sensation. She seemed more experienced as she breathed deeply from her drink. We both set our glasses down and made our way to the table of the crowd. Made our way to the middle of the crowd in front of the stage. Immediately, I felt discouraged to be here. The room began to feel hot, the air was dense, and the music volume shook my body. Kim held my hand so we wouldn't lose each other in the bustling, dancing crowd. Once we finally found a good spot, we decided to stay close, swaying with the noise of the current band. With a closer look, you could tell that the band members were also affected by the room's temperature. Their shirts were drenched from the dripping sweat that they were producing. I couldn't imagine how hard it must have been to hold their instruments with the amount of moisture their hands must have been making. However, my attention quickly switched from seeing to hearing as the music drifted. They gave the feeling of almost a goth mixed with electronic metal. Each member wore nearly 100% dark clothing, with visible tattoos and piercings. The band consisted mainly of males, with a female as their lead singer. She stood out the most with her fire-red hair and cat-like voice as she screamed into the microphone. I couldn't understand the words she was singing, but I began to move along with the beat while Kim and I continued holding hands. Even when the music died, the crowd kept up the volume with cheers. The band waved and thanked everyone before stepping off the stage, giving the microphone to a middle-aged man who smiled brightly. Now that was a show! That was the Dark Howlers, and they will be here again next Friday. The announcer boomed into the microphone as the crowd kept cheering. He gave them a moment to quiet down before he continued. Our next band comes from the countryside, but it is a guarantee their music won't disappoint. Please welcome Somatic Grudges. As the announcer placed the microphone back onto its stand, my heart fell as I saw him. Chase led his band up the steps onto the stage, thanking the host before stepping to the front to greet the crowd. They still roared, even if they didn't know the band I had hoped for. I couldn't bring myself to cheer as I stood in awe, watching as they glowed under the orange beaming lights. Chase settled the microphone to the height he preferred and began to speak. "Thank you for having us. We have some songs for you tonight. Our runner-up is called Outsider." Chase took a step back as the lights dimmed. Before I knew it, the band was playing. It was nothing like when I first heard his music on the plane. I couldn't divert my eyes from the stage. Their tunes rang through my body, but not enough. I was craving more. My feet began to step closer to the stage, slowly swaying and swerving around the dancing strangers as the lyrics continued. I hadn't even realized I let go of Kim's hand until the end of the first song, but I had stopped caring. Everything soon became a blur as I drowned in the mixed sounds of guitar, drum, bass, and voice. This had to be the moment I knew I would forever want to hear more. At the end of their first song, Chase stepped back to drink from a hidden bottle of water behind the drummer. When he came back, our eyes locked. He gasped for breath, sweating from the heat, but smiled enthusiastically. It wasn't just the heat now making me feel hot. Chase continued to talk before starting another song, but I couldn't hear what he was saying with the volume of the crowd now behind me. Their following two songs reminded me of the other bands like Simple Plan mixed with Green Day. The lyrics were about life and the struggles that come with it. Everything seemed and felt relatable, yet it was their lives they were singing about. I imagined myself in their shoes as I listened, trying to feel their feelings when writing the songs. At the end of their last song, the lights dimmed down, allowing the crowd to cheer louder than before. I caught myself clapping with excitement, turning around to try to find Kim. However, she was nowhere in sight. Perhaps she hadn't followed me as I went to the front, or maybe she left? My mind was in a haze until I heard a voice say my name. Quickly turning back to where the stage was, I saw Chase crouching down with a smile and sweat dripping down his face. "Glad you made it," he said loud enough for me to hear. "How could I miss this?" I gasped. "Want to meet the band?" All I could do was nod. Kim had vanished from my mind as I followed him to the right side of the stage, where the band members were talking amongst themselves with a drink in each hand. Chase didn't introduce me yet, stating he would rather we were further away from the crowd, so it wasn't so loud. I continued to follow close behind him as they were led by a security guard behind a metal door to a brightly lit hallway. My eyes took some time to adjust to the sudden brightness. "Did you hear that crowd? That was wild, nothing like back home," one of the men said. He must have been the guitarist. "I think this calls for a celebration," another one said. He looked a little older than the rest, which I believe had played the bass. "Who's this?" the third one said. Before I knew it, all eyes were on me. I instinctively took a step behind Chase, feeling uneasy. "This is Summer," Chase introduced. "She's the one I told you I would be expecting." "Hello, nice to meet you all," I quietly said. The lights were burning my eyes, and the hallway silence was almost louder than the crowd. I had to take a deep breath before I could speak again. "You guys were awesome." "You're damn right we were," Chase chuckled. "Summer, allow me to introduce you to the guys. That's Richie, the guitarist, and the writer of most of our songs. The guy with the long hair is Dominic, and he dominates the drums. And this laid-back piece of work is our bass player, Ryder." Chase pointed to each member as he spoke. Shyness took me over as the guys crowded me after they were introduced. "This is the infamous Summer, huh? You didn't tell us how beautiful she was," Dominic commented. "Dominic, back off, man. You're making her uncomfortable," Ryder grumbled. "Oh, it's all right. I appreciate the compliment," I said. I could feel Chase standing closer to me than usual. The other men must have noticed something, backing away a little bit as they looked at him. "Summer, would you like to have a drink with us?" Chase asked. "Oh, well, I came with Kim. I should at least see where she is." I took my cell phone out of my back pocket, but noticed I had already received a message from her, stating that she saw me walk away with Chase and that she had gone home. "Never mind. I guess she left already." I blushed. "If you want to go home, we could take you." "I'm not much of a drinker, but I can stay for a bit." The band smiled and gave a quick cheer as they walked into a small room that was in the hallway. This must have been the bar's small dressing room for some bands, as it had their group name on the door. Once they had set their instruments into the selective cases, we made our way back to the stage area. Another band was already playing their songs, which caused the crowd to be just as hyped up as when I first arrived. Chase noticed the amount of movement that we would have to traverse through, and turned around to face me. "Hold on to me so we don't lose each other in the crowd," he shouted. He held out his left hand, which I quickly took when someone bumped into me, pushing me closer to Chase. I heard him laugh as he began to tug me along, pushing his way through. The rest of his friends followed behind us, passing through strangers. When we finally reached the bar, I released the air I must have been holding. Chase had ordered us a round of shots, once we found a selective table to fit all of us. Along with the drinks, we shared some fries and nachos, which tasted good. As I mentioned before, I wasn't much of a drinker, and after the third shot, everything became a blur. At some point, the night got darker. Yeah, whoa, that accent came out of nowhere. At some point, the night got darker, and before I knew it, everything went black. Dang. Hold on 1 second. Scene break.
Yeah, it really gets you.
I'm like, whoa.
I
Just changed a whole accent for a second. That was crazy. Okay. When I opened my eyes, pain greeted me. The sunlight shining through the window burned while my head throbbed loudly. I let out a groan, slowly feeling where I was. The softness of my bed and the weight of my blanket felt too warm from the summer morning heat. Gently, I rolled over to face away from the sun and to look at the dim-lit clock on the end table. The time came into focus after a few seconds to read that it was just before noon. Next to the clock was a glass of water, some capsules, and a handwritten note. My hand hurt while reaching for the note, but with all my strength, I picked it up and slowly read it through my squinting eyes. Here's some medicine for your hangover. Chase. At first, I didn't comprehend who had written the letter until I gulped down the medicine with all of the provided water. Sitting up in my bed was when I felt the piercing and gurgling in my stomach. With a fierce instinct, I ran straight for my bathroom to the ceramic bowl and hurled the water and medicine back up. The stinging pang from the acid burned through the whole journey. The liquid smelled heavily like alcohol and grease. Look who finally woke up, I heard Kim's voice sigh. Am I dying? I cried before hurling again. Just a hangover, hon. I was told you drank quite a bit last night. Couldn't stand on your own 2 feet. How did I get home? I was able to catch my breath while I hugged the toilet, wiping my mouth. Chase and his friends got a taxi and brought you home. He had to carry you from the car to the front door. Kim began to rub my back while my stomach started to settle down. It took me a minute before I could try to stand up again. Chase called me from your phone and seemed worried about how much you had to drink. Apparently, you had insisted on walking home because you were a big girl, Kim teased. I did not say that. Oh, but you did. I have never seen you so drunk. You were full of different emotions. All of them were childlike. I closed my eyes to try to remember last night's events. Only snippets of images came and went. A mix of voices, sounds, and music overlapped those images, blurring everything together into one incomprehensible video in my head, which began to throb again. Come on, let's go and get you some breakfast. Kim grabbed my arm to help me up from the bathroom floor. From there, she led me downstairs to the dining room where I stopped, confused. Chase? I gasped. He was sitting at our kitchen table eating a plate full of Kim's homemade pancakes. He almost choked on his bite when I said his name, apparently too loudly, which was signaled by Kim shushing me. Morning, he forced out through his coughs. You didn't tell me he would be here. I growled in a whisper to Kim. My hair was an absolute mess. I was covered in overnight sweat and still smelled of alcohol. I asked if he wanted to stay the night here since he seemed pretty out of it himself. She answered, walking me to my designated seat. Now sit down and stop complaining. Kim gently placed a plate of 2 large pancakes with syrup on the side and a tall glass of orange juice. Next to the pancakes was a small plate of sausage links and scrambled eggs. With my stomach emptied this morning, I felt hungrier than ever and began digging right in. The sweetness from the syrup on the pancakes and the smoky flavor of the sausage was enough to satisfy my aching stomach for the time being. Chase had finished before me and offered to do the dishes. I couldn't help but watch as he approached the sink and started on the task. He's quite the gentleman, Kim whispered, bringing me back to reality. I still had food in my mouth. All I could do was nod as I continued chewing. Alright, well, I think I'll head out then. Chase's voice broke through the still air. I turned to watch him drying his hands off with the kitchen towel. Thank you for letting me crash, Kim. No problem. A friend of Summer's is a friend of mine, Kim responded, eyeballing me. Summer, thanks again for coming to the show last night. I can keep you updated on more if you'd like. Yeah, I would like that, I whispered. It was silent again momentarily as I stared down at my plate. Before I knew it, Kim was leading Chase out of the door. And that's the end of chapter 4.
Yay! I know, I laugh. I was laughing a lot through some of those parts, but I was on mute, so
Oh, good.
if you're only doing audio, you wouldn't hear me. But if you watched on YouTube, you'll see me laughing.
Okay, good. I try to like get into character when I'm in the characters, so when he was like in a British accent, I was like, oh wait, I forgot I said this in my head as a British accent. So
At least you can do one.
I try sometimes. I try. Like there's sometimes where like there's certain words I can't do, but
I'm really bad at talking, and then when I have a lot of S words, I really start messing up.
yeah, for me it's
Because I'm not
those
good
like
with S's.
yeah, for me it's like those double R words like harrowing. Like that one was really hard.
See, R's aren't hard for me. It's the S's and TH's and SH's because I was in speech for years because I had a trauma incident with my mouth and I didn't have my 4 top front teeth for like years.
Oh, wow.
So I had to like, yeah, I fell down a driveway and had my teeth surgically removed.
Oh, wow.
When I was 3.
Very eventful.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I still struggle on them, but
yeah.
I try. You just push.
Yeah, you just gotta push through. All right. Well, that was readings from each of our books. We did 2 chapters each today. So next month we will be starting on chapter 5 in each book. Is there anything you'd like to add, Essay?
No, I don't think so. Just keep an eye out for when I talk about if there's going to be a sign up or not, or if we're just going to have people direct message us, and whoever directs message us first to join in and read their book on these sessions. We'll see which route is better to go.
All right, sounds good. And we try to upload every week between Sunday, Monday, so keep an eye out. We upload on Spotify and on YouTube, so please don't forget to leave a like and a follow and maybe a comment if you liked it, or if you want to see something else that we can probably do in the future. So, I think that'll do it for this week. So thank you guys for watching or listening, and we will see you next week.
Yep. See you later.
All right, bye-bye.